pipe wrench slipped from my hands and clattered against the basement floor at exactly 11:47 p.m. I know the time because that's when my world shifted sideways, like stepping off a curb you didn't see coming. I'm Jake Morrison, 42 years old, and I fix things for a living. Leaky faucets, broken furnaces, cracked foundations, you name it, I can repair it. What I couldn't fix was the conversation drifting down through the heating vents from the kitchen above. Cole, I already told you, yes. Emily's voice carried that sharp edge she usually reserved for telemarketers. I'll do it. I'll carry the baby. My wife of 8 years, talking to her ex-boyfriend at midnight about carrying his baby. I pressed my ear to the vent, my contractor's instincts telling me to gather all the facts before making any moves. Good thing, too, because what came next made my stomach drop like a broken elevator. The clinic won't ask questions if I say it's for my husband, Emily continued. Jake's insurance will cover everything. He's too trusting to check the paperwork closely. Too trusting. Right. I'd built this woman a dream kitchen with my own hands, worked overtime to pay for her nursing degree, and apparently I was too trusting. Just make sure you transfer the money to my account before the procedure, she said. $50,000, like we agreed. And Cole, this stays between us and Mara. Nobody else can know. Mara. Emily's best friend since college. The one who always looked at me like I was something she'd scraped off her designer shoe. Of course she was involved. I crept up the basement stairs, each step planned to avoid the creaky spots I'd been meaning to fix. Through the crack in the kitchen door, I watched my wife pace back and forth, her blonde hair catching the light from the pendant lamps I'd installed last Christmas. I don't care if it's complicated, Emily hissed into the phone. You want a baby? I need the money. It's business. Business. My wife was turning herself into a rental property for her ex, using my insurance as collateral. She hung up, and I slipped back downstairs, my mind racing faster than a circular saw through pine. I sat on my workbench, surrounded by tools that suddenly felt useless. You can't fix betrayal with a screwdriver. The next morning, Emily hummed while making coffee, acting like she hadn't just agreed to carry another man's child. She wore her scrubs, the fertility clinic where she worked had strict dress codes, and her hair was pulled back in that perfect bun that took her 20 minutes to achieve. You're up early, she said without looking at me. Couldn't sleep. Heard some weird noises in the walls last night. She paused, coffee mug halfway to her lips. What kind of noises? Like rats. Or snakes. Something that doesn't belong there. Before we dive deeper into this story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible Reddit stories. Emily's face went pale, but she recovered quickly. You should check the insulation. Maybe something got in through the attic. Oh, I plan to check everything, I said, watching her reaction. Every corner, every hiding spot. Amazing what you find when you really look. She left for work 10 minutes later, and I started my investigation. Emily wasn't naturally sneaky, which made finding evidence almost insulting. Her laptop password was our anniversary date. Apparently she hadn't updated her security along with her morals. Her email revealed months of planning between her, Cole, and Mara. The fertility clinic bills were hidden in a folder labeled Recipes. $50,000 for artificial insemination, with my insurance listed as primary coverage. The paperwork had my forged signature, which explained why Emily had been practicing my handwriting on grocery lists, but the real prize was her burner phone, tucked inside an old shoebox in the closet. The text messages read like a manual for ruining someone's life. Cole. Try to keep it quiet, Em. I don't want your contractor husband getting wise. Emily. Jake's too busy fixing other people's problems to notice mine. Mara. Once you get pregnant, file for separation. Emotional distress, irreconcilable differences. My lawyer says you'll get half of everything plus spousal support. Emily. What about custody of Lucy? Mara. Document everything. Make him look unstable. Shouldn't be hard with his temper. My temper. Right. I'd raised my voice exactly twice in our marriage, both times about Emily's spending habits, but apparently that was enough to build a case for instability. I photographed everything, uploaded it to a secure cloud account, and put the phone back exactly where I found it. Then I sat in my truck outside the house I'd renovated with my own hands and planned my response. Emily wanted to play games? Fine. But she'd picked the wrong opponent. 3 days later, I followed Emily to what she claimed was a late shift at the clinic. Instead, she drove to the Riverside Motel, a place where rooms rent by the hour and nobody asks questions. Cole's red Mustang was already in the parking lot because, of course, he drove a cliché. I watched through my binoculars as they argued in room 12. Not the romantic reunion you'd expect, but a business meeting with raised voices and pointing fingers. Cole looked exactly like I remembered from Emily's college photos. Pretty boy features, expensive haircut, the kind of guy who'd never changed his own oil. He was gesturing wildly while Emily sat on the bed, arms crossed. I couldn't hear the conversation, but body language told the story. Money troubles, cold feet, accusations flying both ways. When they finally left, separately, like they thought that made them clever, I made my move. The Mustang's paint job was Cole's pride and joy. He'd posted about it constantly on social media, calling it his baby. Well, babies needed feeding, and I had just the thing. Sugar in the gas tank is actually a myth. It doesn't dissolve in gasoline. But a handful of sand in the oil reservoir, that'll turn an engine into expensive scrap metal. I also loosened the lug nuts on his front wheels, not enough to cause immediate danger, but sufficient to create a wobble that would drive him crazy trying to diagnose. For the finishing touch, I used automotive paint to write cheater across his windshield. Not my most creative work, but effective. The next morning, Emily's phone rang at 6 a.m. I pretended to sleep while she took the call in the bathroom. "What do you mean vandalized?" she whispered. "How bad is it?" I smiled into my pillow. Cole was apparently having a very bad morning. "No, I can't come over there," Emily continued. "Jake's home and... Yes, I know it's suspicious timing." When she emerged, her face was white as primer paint. "Everything okay?" I asked, stretching like I'd just woken up. "My friend's car got vandalized last night. Some crazy person destroyed it." "That's terrible. What kind of person does something like that?" "Someone with serious anger issues," she said, studying my face. "Well, karma's funny that way. Sometimes bad things happen to people who deserve them." Emily stared at me for a long moment, then grabbed her purse and left without another word. I spent the day researching Cole Patterson, his real name, not the Cole Stevens he'd been using with Emily. Turned out my wife's ex had quite the history. 2 previous fraud charges, both dismissed on technicalities, a pattern of targeting women with assets, 3 different aliases across 2 states. Cole wasn't just Emily's ex-boyfriend. He was a professional con artist, and my wife was his latest mark. The question was, did Emily know, or was she being played too? I got my answer that afternoon when I intercepted a package delivery meant for Emily. Inside was a fake pregnancy test, the kind used in movies, designed to show positive results every time. The return address led to a novelty company that specialized in prank items. Emily wasn't planning to get pregnant through the clinic. She was going to fake the whole thing, collect $50,000 from Cole, then disappear with my assets after the divorce. My wife wasn't just a cheater, she was a fraud. That evening, I grilled burgers on the deck while Emily played with our daughter Lucy in the backyard. Watching them together, Emily pushing Lucy on the swing set I'd built, both of them laughing, made my chest tight with something I couldn't name. Lucy was 4 years old, blonde like her mother, with my stubborn chin and Emily's quick smile. She didn't know her parents' marriage was a lie, or that her mother was planning to tear apart the only stable home she'd ever known. "Daddy, look how high I can go," Lucy called out, pumping her legs to make the swing go higher. "I see you, sweetheart. You're flying." Emily caught my eye and smiled, the same smile that had convinced me to marry her 8 years ago. For a moment, I almost forgot about the burner phone and the fake pregnancy test and the $50,000. Almost. "Jake," Emily said, walking over to where I stood by the grill, "we should talk." "About what?" "About us. About our future." I flipped a burger, watching the flames flare up. "What about it?" "I've been thinking we need some changes. Maybe some time apart to figure things out." "Time apart," I repeated. "Like a separation." "Maybe. I know that sounds scary, but sometimes relationships need space to grow." I looked at her, this woman I'd loved and trusted and built a life with, and felt something cold settle in my chest. She was already setting up the narrative, laying groundwork for the divorce that would fund her new life with Cole. "You know what, Em? You're absolutely right." Her eyebrows shot up. "I am?" "Yeah, sometimes people need to face consequences for their choices, space to really understand what they've lost." Something flickered in her eyes. Uncertainty, maybe fear. "What do you mean?" "I mean, change is coming whether we want it or not. The question is who's going to control it." I smiled and handed her a perfectly grilled burger. "Dinner's ready." The confrontation happened at Lucy's preschool carnival, of all places. Bouncy castles, cotton candy, and the complete destruction of my reputation as a stable family man. Emily had been acting nervous all week, ever since Cole's car troubles. She kept checking her burner phone and having whispered conversations with Mara. I played dumb, fixing a leaky faucet here, installing a ceiling fan there, while gathering intelligence on my wife's conspiracy. The carnival was Mara's idea. She was on the PTA board and loved organizing events that let her show off her social status. She'd married well, to a lawyer named Richard who specialized in messy divorces. Convenient. I was manning the ring toss booth when Cole showed up, looking nervous in khakis and a polo shirt. He'd traded his damaged Mustang for a rental car, probably couldn't afford repairs on a contractor's sabotage job. "Jake Morrison," he said, approaching my booth with fake confidence. "Emily's told me so much about you." "Cole Patterson," I replied, using his real name. "Or do you prefer Stevens? Or maybe Wilson? Hard to keep track of all your identities." His face went pale. "I don't know what you're talking about." "Sure you don't, just like you don't know about the fraud charges in Michigan, or the restraining order in Ohio, or the fact that you're running a long con on my wife." Cole glanced around, realizing we were drawing attention from other parents. "You're crazy." "Maybe, but I'm not stupid. See, I know about the fake pregnancy test, the $50,000, the plan to take half my assets in a divorce settlement." "Emily never mentioned you were paranoid." "Emily mentions a lot of things, like how you two have been planning this scam for months, using my insurance for fertility treatments that'll never happen. Pretty clever, except you picked the wrong mark." Cole stepped closer, trying to intimidate me with his gym membership muscles. "You need to back off, old man. Emily's making her own choices." "Old man?" I laughed, loud enough to make other parents look over. "That's rich, coming from a guy who's been arrested twice for targeting older women. What's your type, Cole? Lonely divorcees with savings accounts?" "Shut your mouth." "Or what? You'll call your lawyer? Oh wait, you can't afford one. That's why you need Emily's insurance money." Cole's face turned red. I said, "Shut up. Make me." He swung first, a clumsy right hook that telegraphed itself from 3 counties away. I'd been in construction for 20 years. You don't survive job sites without learning to handle yourself. I ducked under his punch and shoved him backward into the ring toss display. Rings scattered everywhere as Cole stumbled, arms windmilling for balance. He crashed into a folding table loaded with prizes, sending stuffed animals flying through the air. "Fight! Fight!" some kid yelled, and suddenly we had an audience. Cole scrambled to his feet, face twisted with rage. "You psycho! You're insane!" "I'm insane?" I spread my arms wide, playing to the crowd. "You're the one trying to steal my wife and my money. Tell everyone, Cole. Tell them about your little business arrangement with Emily." "You don't know anything. I know you've been meeting at the Riverside Motel. I know about the burner phone. I know Emily's been practicing my signature for the insurance fraud." The crowd was eating it up, phones coming out to record the drama. Cole realized he was trapped, caught between my accusations and a dozen witnesses. "This is harassment," he said, backing away. "I'm calling the police." "Good idea. I'm sure they'd love to hear about your criminal history. 3 aliases, 2 states, and a pattern of financial fraud targeting married women." Cole turned and ran, literally ran through the carnival crowd like a coward. I stood there catching my breath, surrounded by scattered ring toss equipment and gawking parents. Emily appeared at my elbow, face white with fury. "What have you done?" "Public service," I said. "Warned everyone about a predator." "You're embarrassing our daughter." I looked around for Lucy, found her by the face-painting booth, completely oblivious to the drama. "Lucy's fine. She's getting a butterfly painted on her cheek. It's you who should be embarrassed." "We're going home, now." "Good idea. We have a lot to discuss." The ride home was silent except for Lucy's chatter about the carnival games. Emily gripped the steering wheel like she was trying to strangle it, while I sat in the passenger seat planning my next move. By evening, the video was online. Someone had posted it to the local Facebook group with the caption, "Drama at the School Carnival." The comments were brutal. Always knew there was something off about that Cole guy. Emily Morrison should be ashamed of herself. Poor Jake. Nobody deserves to be cheated on like that. What kind of woman brings her boyfriend to her kid's school event? Emily locked herself in the bedroom after dinner, probably calling Mara to figure out damage control. I tucked Lucy into bed, read her favorite story about a brave princess, and kissed her goodnight. "Daddy, why was everyone yelling at the carnival?" she asked. "Sometimes grown-ups make bad choices, sweetheart. But don't worry about it. Daddy's going to fix everything." "You always fix things?" "That's right, baby girl. Daddy always fixes things." After Lucy was asleep, I sat in my workshop and planned the next phase. The school fight had been messy, emotional, reactive. From now on, everything would be calculated. Emily wanted to destroy my life for $50,000? Fine. I'd show her what real destruction looked like. The town turned against Emily faster than I'd expected. Small places like ours thrive on gossip, and the school carnival video had given everyone plenty to talk about. By Monday morning, Emily was getting cold shoulders at the grocery store and suspicious looks at the gas station. I, on the other hand, was suddenly the town's sympathetic figure. Tim Bradley, my drinking buddy from Murphy's Bar, bought me lunch and offered to handle Cole if I needed backup. Mrs. Henderson from down the street brought over a casserole and told me I was too good for that woman. The attention was useful for gathering information. Amazing how much people will tell you when they think you're the victim. "That Cole fellow's been asking questions around town," Tim said over beer and burgers. "Wanting to know about your business, your assets, how much the house is worth." "Really?" "Yeah, and get this. He's been staying at Mara's place since the carnival. Richard kicked her out after seeing the video. Apparently he didn't know his wife was helping orchestrate affairs." This was better than I'd hoped. Mara's marriage imploding meant one less ally for Emily and one more person with a grudge against my wife's conspiracy. I spent the afternoon doing surveillance on Mara's rental apartment across town. Sure enough, Cole's replacement car was parked outside, and through the windows I could see him pacing around like a caged animal. That evening, I made my move. The apartment complex had terrible security. Broken gate, no cameras, mailboxes anyone could access. I slipped inside after another resident and found Cole's temporary home on the second floor. I didn't break in, didn't need to. The walls were thin and the neighbors were loud, so I just sat in the stairwell and listened to Cole and Mara argue about their collapsing plan. "Emily's panicking," Mara's voice carried through the door. "She wants to call the whole thing off." "She can't back out now," Cole replied. "I've got too much invested in this." "What investment? You haven't spent a dime. Time is money. I've been working this angle for 6 months. And now her husband knows everything. He's not some clueless contractor, Cole. He's smart and he's angry. So what do you suggest? Cut our losses. Find another mark." "No way. Emily's sitting on $200,000 in assets, plus that insurance policy. I'm not walking away from that kind of score." "Insurance policy? That was new information." "The life insurance?" Mara asked. $500,000 if something happens to Jake. Emily's the beneficiary." My spine went cold. They weren't just planning to divorce me. They were discussing my life insurance like I was already gone. "You're talking crazy now," Mara said. "I agreed to help you fleece a cheating spouse, not whatever this is becoming." "Relax. I'm not saying we hurt the guy, but accidents happen. Construction sites are dangerous places." I'd heard enough. I crept back down the stairs and sat in my truck, hands shaking with rage and something else. Fear, maybe. These people weren't just after my money anymore. They were talking about my life like it was a business expense. The next morning, I called in sick to work and drove to the county courthouse. Public records are amazing things when you know how to read them. Cole's real history was even worse than I'd discovered online. 3 marriages, all ending in suspicious circumstances. Wife number 1 died in a car accident 6 months after taking out a large life insurance policy. Wife number 2 disappeared entirely, leaving behind substantial debts and an insurance claim that was never paid. Wife number 3 survived, but only because she figured out Cole's game and fled to another state. Cole wasn't just a con artist. He was a predator who specialized in making wives disappear. And Emily was his next target. I sat in the courthouse parking lot, staring at the documents that painted my wife as Cole's intended victim rather than his willing accomplice. The fake pregnancy, the insurance fraud, even the divorce planning, it all made sense if Emily thought she was running a simple scam to get away from me. She had no idea Cole was planning to eliminate her once he got access to my life insurance money. For the first time in weeks, I felt something other than anger toward Emily. She was still a cheater and a liar, but she was also in danger from a man who'd made 2 previous wives disappear. I had a choice to make. Let Cole's plan play out and hope Emily figured out the danger in time, or warn her and risk losing my leverage in the divorce. It wasn't really a choice at all. That evening, I waited until Lucy was asleep, then confronted Emily in the kitchen. "We need to talk," I said, spreading Cole's criminal history across the table, "about your boyfriend's real background." Emily looked at the documents, her face going pale as she read the details about Cole's previous wives. "This can't be real," she whispered. 3 wives, Emily, 3 insurance claims, 2 women who are no longer breathing and 1 who barely escaped. But he told me he'd never been married. He told you a lot of things, like how he wanted to have a baby with you, right? Except the pregnancy test he sent you is fake. There's no fertility clinic appointment. The whole thing is a setup to get you to file for divorce and claim my life insurance." Emily's hands were shaking as she flipped through the police reports. "I don't understand. Why would he want to hurt you?" "He doesn't want to hurt me, Em. He wants to hurt you. I'm just the paycheck." She looked up at me, tears starting to form. "What do you mean?" "I mean your wife number 4, and if his pattern holds, you won't live long enough to spend that insurance money." The truth hit her like a sledgehammer. Emily collapsed into a chair, the weight of her situation finally sinking in. "Oh, God," she whispered. "What have I done? You've made some very bad choices, but it's not too late to fix them." "How? He knows where I live, where I work, where Lucy goes to school." "Leave that to me," I said, gathering up the documents. "I'm good at fixing things, remember?" The abandoned amusement pier stretched into the harbor like a broken promise, its rusted rides and peeling paint a perfect metaphor for Emily's relationship with Cole. I'd chosen this location carefully, public enough to have witnesses, isolated enough for privacy, and symbolic enough to make a point. It had taken 3 days to set up the meeting, using Emily as bait to draw Cole and Mara into my trap. Emily was terrified but cooperative, finally understanding the danger she'd put herself and Lucy in. Amazing how quickly someone's priorities shift when they realize their life is on the line. "He's coming," Emily said, checking her phone. "Cole just texted. He'll be here in 10 minutes. "What about Mara?" "She's already here. I can see her car by the entrance." I adjusted the small recording device clipped to Emily's shirt. "Remember, get them to talk about the insurance money. Make them think you're still going along with the plan." "What if they realize it's a setup?" "Then we improvise. But Cole's arrogant and Mara's desperate. They'll want to gloat about how clever they've been." Emily nodded, trying to look brave. We'd spent the last 3 days planning this confrontation, and she'd finally admitted the full scope of her betrayal. The fake pregnancy, the forged insurance documents, even the plan to claim I'd been abusive during the divorce proceedings. "Jake," she said quietly, "I know this doesn't fix anything, but I'm sorry. About all of it. Save the apologies for later. Right now, focus on staying alive." Cole arrived exactly on schedule, parking his rental car next to the pier entrance. He looked nervous, constantly checking over his shoulder as he walked toward us. Good. Nervous people make mistakes. "Emily," he called out, forcing a smile. "You look upset. Everything okay?" "Jake's getting suspicious," Emily said, playing her part perfectly. "He's been asking questions about the insurance money." "What kind of questions?" "About the beneficiary information, whether I'd updated the policy recently." Cole's eyes narrowed. "What did you tell him?" "Nothing. But I'm scared, Cole. What if he figures out what we're planning?" "He won't. Your husband's a simple man with simple thoughts. He fixes pipes and changes oil and goes to bed early. He's not smart enough to see what's coming." I stepped out from behind a support beam, clapping slowly. "You'd be surprised what the simple man can figure out." Cole spun around, his face going white. "What is this?" "This is the part where you confess everything," I said, pulling out my phone to show him I was recording. "Tell me about your previous wives, Cole, or should I call you by one of your other names?" "I don't know what you're talking about." "Really? Because I've got police reports from 3 different states that say otherwise. Amazing what you can find in public records when you know where to look." Mara emerged from behind another beam, clearly having heard enough to realize their plan was compromised. "Cole, we need to leave. Now." "Nobody's leaving until we settle this," I said. "Emily, tell them what you learned about Cole's history." Emily looked at Cole with disgust. 3 wives. 2 of them are gone. 1 barely escaped with her life. "That's ridiculous," Cole said, but his voice lacked conviction. "Is it?" "Because I've got documentation of your insurance claims. Funny how all your wives took out large policies right before they had their accidents." Cole's mask finally slipped, revealing the predator underneath. "You can't prove anything." "I don't have to prove it. I just have to make sure everyone knows about it." I pulled out a portable speaker and connected my phone. Suddenly, the pier filled with the sound of Cole and Mara's recorded conversations from the apartment, including the discussion about my life insurance and the comment about construction accidents. "You recorded us illegally," Mara protested. "Actually, I recorded you from a public stairwell, discussing plans to commit insurance fraud and potentially worse. Perfectly legal." Cole realized he was trapped. His carefully constructed con was falling apart, and his escape routes were closing. "Emily, you don't understand. This man is dangerous. He's been stalking us, vandalizing my property, threatening us." "The only person who's been threatened is Emily," I said. "By you, just like your previous wives." "Shut up." Cole lunged at me, but 8 years of construction work had kept me in better shape than his gym membership. I sidestepped his attack and let his momentum carry him into a rusted railing. Careful, Cole. These old structures aren't very stable, kind of like your story. He scrambled to his feet, looking around desperately. Mara, help me. But Mara was already backing away, clearly wanting distance from whatever Cole was planning. I never signed up for this. I thought we were just going to take some money and embarrass Jake. I didn't know about the other wives. There weren't any other wives, Cole shouted. He's making it up. I held up the police reports. Public record, Cole. 3 states, 3 suspicious fatalities, 3 insurance claims. You've got a type, and Emily matches the pattern perfectly. Emily stepped away from Cole, finally seeing him clearly. You were going to hurt me, weren't you, after you got the insurance money? I would never hurt you, Cole said, but his eyes were wild now, desperate. We had a plan. We were going to be together. Together where? In a grave next to your other wives? Cole's composure completely shattered. You stupid woman. You were supposed to trust me. You were supposed to follow the plan. The plan where I end up gone and you end up rich. You weren't supposed to figure it out. And there it was. The confession I needed, recorded on multiple devices, with witnesses present. Cole Patterson, I said formally, you're under citizen's arrest for conspiracy to commit insurance fraud, conspiracy to commit harassment, and conspiracy to commit whatever you were planning to do to my wife. You can't arrest me. Actually, I can, and I just did. Police sirens wailed in the distance. I'd called them before the meeting started, giving them enough time to position themselves nearby. They'd heard everything through the wire Emily was wearing. Cole made one last desperate attempt to escape, running toward the edge of the pier. But there was nowhere to go except into the cold harbor water, and even he wasn't that stupid. The police took him into custody without further drama. Mara cooperated fully, providing evidence about the conspiracy in exchange for leniency. Emily gave a complete statement about her involvement and Cole's manipulation. As the sun set over the harbor, I stood on the pier watching Cole's rental car get towed away. Emily approached cautiously, unsure of her reception. What happens now? She asked. Now you face the consequences of your choices, I said. The marriage is over, Em. I can't trust you again after this. I know. I'm sorry. Sorry doesn't fix 8 years of lies, but at least Lucy won't have to grow up wondering what happened to her mother. Emily nodded, tears streaming down her face. Thank you for saving my life. I didn't do it for you. I did it for Lucy. She needs her mother, even if I can't be married to her anymore. We walked back to our cars in silence, the weight of everything that had happened settling between us like fog. Emily would face charges for the insurance fraud, but nothing compared to what Cole was looking at. Mara had already lost her marriage and her social standing. Everyone had paid a price for their choices. I drove home to relieve the babysitter and check on Lucy, who was sleeping peacefully in her bed, unaware that her world had just been turned upside down. Tomorrow I'd have to figure out how to explain that Mommy and Daddy wouldn't be living together anymore, but tonight she was safe, and that was enough. I sat in my workshop, surrounded by tools and half-finished projects, and tried to process everything that had happened. My marriage was over, my trust was shattered, and my future was uncertain. But I was alive, Lucy was safe, and justice had been served. Sometimes that's the best you can hope for.